No, the lights are.
Hi, everyone. I feel like everyone needs to take big, deep breath, roll your shoulders back. This show is not super light and fluffy, in case you were wondering. But that's why we love it. My name is Kara Warner. I am your moderator tonight. I'm a freelance journalist. Very lucky to get to talk to some of the people that I am about to introduce. And because you're not here for me, let me please introduce the reason you're all here. Star Natalie Morales, creator and executive producer Gabe, executive producer and writer Daniel Pearle, executive producer and director Antonio Campos, star Brittany Snow, Matthew Rhys, Claire Danes, and our showrunner, executive producer and writer Howard Gordon. Oh yeah, we were trying to get the order in the hallway. Success. I would love to start with our creative team. Well, I guess it's all of you if I say that. Executive producers, showrunners, can you talk about the origin story of all of this? How long it took us all to get here?
350 years.
Well, I think Gabe should answer that because
Yes.
The origin. I think it started with an article that I'd read in 2016 about a writer named Tony Schwartz who ghost wrote the Donald Trump book, The Art of the Deal. And it was an interesting article. Tony Schwartz was this sort of level-headed, struggling writer who was offered the opportunity to, he was pretty much given unfettered access to Donald Trump and quickly realized who and what he was dealing with. And, he had to make this sort of Faustian bargain to glorify and mythologize, a guy who some people might think of as a monster. I'm sure nobody in this room thinks of him that way, but he spent the next decades really feeling horrible guilt about it. He went on sort of an apology tour. But I just thought that subject-writer dynamic was an interesting way into a series, and of course it evolved over the decades that it took to develop this show. The more brilliant people got involved, the more we pivoted and evolved it into what you saw tonight. But that article was really, I'd call it the first brick in the wall.
Nice. And then you and Claire connected, and then help us connect the dots.
David Kissinger, who I think is here tonight somewhere and deserves a lot of credit. He was given the script. He ran Conan O'Brien's company, and I went in and met with him and Conan, and they just loved it. And in that first meeting, David said, I went to college with Jodie Foster, and we're friends. Would you mind if I sent it to her? And I said, I would not mind if you sent it to Jodie Foster. So Jodie read it, and she really loved it, but she had some thoughts, and she's very, very smart. And she gave one big note that really changed the direction of it. It's a very long story. I'll try to Cliff's Notes it here. But that became the version that Claire got attached to, and that's the version we sold to Netflix in, 2020?
Oh.
And
And here we are.
Here we are. Long story long, here we are.
Howard and Dana, how did you all come along? Obviously, Howard and Claire have worked together a little bit, for those of you who know Homeland. When did you, Claire, did you come?
Yeah, so I hopped on the train 2020, and it went through a few iterations, I thought, I have a guy, I have a pal who might be able to help us out. And I thought of my friend Howard, who had also kind of coincidentally been partnered with another dear brilliant writer friend of mine, Daniel Pearle. And I thought their sensibilities would be perfectly suitable to this. And they agreed, which was a very happy thing. And then we wrestled it to the ground.
Was there any of your fellow cast here that was like the easiest to reel in? Or I know Matthew said he doesn't usually get asked to play these roles, which I think obviously it requires talent and a breadth of skill. So I would assume you would be approached for something that's complicated, but no?
No, I mean, I'm for once in my life sincere in that statement. In that, the kind of, I think that the true depth of the darkness you see in Niall is something I don't usually get, I think, looked at. So this was an incredible opportunity.
Yeah. How about for Brittany and Natalie? Can you tell us a little bit more? Because we just get a little taste of who we're going to see over the course of 8 episodes.
Sure. I mean, I came on.
Oh, it's on.
Hello. Okay, sorry. I came onto it as an audition, and I just saw everyone who was involved, and I thought, whatever they want me to do, I'll do. And I basically begged, but luckily I didn't have to for very long. And I really just trusted the fact that this was not going to be a one-dimensional character, and it doesn't turn out to be, that you'll learn later. And yeah, I was just so grateful that the wife of someone had so many dimensions and layers to her that I got to play, and people will find out why that's.
Thank goodness we will find out.
Yeah, I also auditioned for it in the same way as Brittany did. It was just as like, oh, all of these people are involved, and I'm such huge fans of them. Not your typical Conan fare, but yeah, just a big fan of everybody involved. And similarly, I was like, whatever this is, I'm so down. And I'm so thrilled that I got to do it. And I mean, I've done some drama before, but I mainly come from the comedy world, so this was a challenge for me in a lot of really interesting and deep ways, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I would love to talk just a little bit about the pilot. So, Gabe and Daniel, did you have kind of an agenda for the pilot? Because I think, obviously you guys have all seen it, it's not going to be the only episode you see, I'm pretty confident, when it drops in a week. But can you talk about like crafting kind of the perfect way to tease and introduce all of the people you need to meet, and you know, the action and the emotion, all of that?
Yeah, I mean it's always a real challenge because a pilot has to set up so much, but you also want it to be fun and engaging to watch on its own. Obviously, you know, the most important thing, and again, when I read the draft that we started working from, you know, I thought it was a really interesting premise, this idea of almost what would it be like if you met your own shadow in some way. There was something very noir, Hitchcocky, and also something very mythic about it, which I really, you know, thought was fascinating. You know, here's a woman who's been sort of in this cocoon of grief, and she meets this person that at first blush she really loathes and despises, but there is some pull there, there's some attraction, and you know, I started as a playwright, and so I you know, I love a good two-hander, I love a good endlessly long talky scene, and I sort of loved that at its core, you know, this story was about this dyad, that sort of, and it wasn't sexual, but that there was this mutual attraction that, you know, I felt like I'd never seen that relationship before. So I think certainly establishing the Niall-Aggie relationship was paramount. You know, the other challenge I think that is because Aggie is so isolated. You know, she doesn't have a scene partner for a lot of the pilot, and so I think we went through a lot of, you know, back and forth about how to sort of catch the audience up to where she is in her life at this particular moment, both in terms of her house, in terms of her, you know, the dissolution of her marriage, obviously her son. And yeah, it's one of these things. I think it was just a really wonderful collaboration. I think, you know, among the three of us, we had a lot of conversations about, you know, what was most important, and then it just starts to really gel, and you just kind of let it happen.
Yeah, I rewatched it in preparation because I have seen a couple more, and I thought there were 2 episodes there in that pilot. I just rewatching it, I'm like, when we get to the wonderful lunch scene, I was like, oh, I thought that was episode 2 because so much happens. Antonio, you directed this episode, everyone saw. Not to pick, you know, children or favorites, but do you have like a favorite sequence or a favorite challenge or something achieved in shooting it?
I achieved so much. So many achievements. I mean, I can, you know, and this is true. It's like it's not often that you get a script and you read it and you go, "Oh, this is good." Like this is good, and you go, "I don't have any notes here," and that was the case with this. And I think the thing that I was most excited about shooting, which was the most satisfying sequence to shoot, was the lunch, because it was such a. I love long talky scenes, and I just love the challenge of it, of how do you just visually activate it? How do you shoot it where you're not sort of over covering something? It's still elegant, it's still restrained, but there's enough kind of movements in the piece, and so all of the stuff is there. It's just how do I visualize it, and I just sort of felt like I got to go to town with it, and we spent 2 days shooting that, and that is also a dream, like having 2 days to shoot 2 people sitting at a table talking. I mean, it's and like when you see the scene, you understand what that means. Like there's just so much texture and detail in there, and you don't want to rush that. So that was my favorite scene.
I did really want to see that chicken pomodoro as we teased it so well, but we don't get to see it. It's fine. Matthew, I think I heard this was one of the first days when you guys shot that long scene. 10 pages, easy, right? Can you talk about just the fun of building that together? If it is fun,
it wasn't
that's
fun.
where you start.
So fun is definitely not the word I would use. Yeah, well, it was double-edged in that yes, it was terrifying that for me personally that was the second day of filming, but the process and the experience, I think of shooting that scene informed so much for me personally of Niall and Aggie's relationship. It set a kind of beautiful foundation, which I felt set me in good stead as to who these 2 people were and what they found in each other, or repelled, or leaned into, and so it helped enormously, as perverse as the scheduling was.
I would also just add to that, because I think the other thing that the time gave us was the ability to play. And there was a lot of playing and sort of like, oh, what if we did this? And what if we did that? And one of my favorite things in the whole series is when Niall does the mask, which was, just
That's
one of my many
Matthew.
favorite things. And then also the other thing that we did that day was the close-ups on Matthew talking into the camera. And we really found that language there on that day. And so, it was that's the other thing with time, is you get to play, you get to discover and have fun.
I think it's a really fun further introduction to Niall too, because you're kind of wondering. Seems very menacing as you're looking down in that first scene. What do you guys think? Do you think Niall is evil, or is he just playing up a kooky? Misunderstood, right? I feel like this does such a good job of we're not gonna know for a while, right? Or did the audience decide? We don't know. Claire, one of the things I loved reading about kind of in how your approach to the character and thinking about Aggie as a writer is with her relationship with Natalie is like a writer as a sniper. Can you talk just a little bit about that and embodying that part of who Aggie is?
I read a book in college called The Journalist and the Murderer by Janet Malcolm. Do you know this book? It's really good. It's like a slip of a thing. It's really not very long, so you can inhale it quickly, but it's brilliant. And it's about a journalist who is profiling a man who's on trial for murdering his family, and she she earns his trust and then destroys it, betrays him and writes a really damning piece about him. And it's it's just fascinating that they have the same moral value. You're kind of horrified by the cynical nature of that. But he killed his entire family, right? But anyway, I that was fun to play with. Yeah, that she's this kind of deceptive. She seems quite unassuming and cerebral and kind of remote, but she also has, a great ambition and appetite for destruction. Yeah.
To Claire's credit, she brought that book to the table, and it really became a touchstone for us. The idea of the writer as sort of predator. That writer-subject relationship is so sort of icky and complicated, and this was an interesting take on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read it. I'm an entertainment journalist though, so not technically a sniper yet, so we'll see, but that seems really interesting. Claire, I wonder how it is kind of spending so much time being the only person in, kind of as you're introducing this whole world, if it's daunting, if you like it, or if it was kind of part of the fun of the challenge of acting?
Well, it was a little lonely. There was a lot of like clickety-clacking, a lot of writing acting. And that was scary, is this gonna be enough? There's a lot of, you have to establish her loneliness and, the authenticity of her work, her life as a creative person, which is not that entertaining, really. But we wanted to commit to that and just trust that the audience would stay with us. And but Antonio did an amazing job of creating tension when she's just in her office typing.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's a testament to you as an actress that every scene of just that there is no scene where nothing's happening. There's just everything. There's so many layers there that you're even in the silence you're very alive, and it makes it very easy. So it's like, okay, I'll just put the camera down here, and then we'll get it. And I just have to shoot at enough angles to make it work.
But you chose the right angles.
I did. But I remember one point when we were doing the writer's block, and I just kept the wide shot going and
For
going
so long.
and going. and then it was like after about 5 minutes, you were like suffering so much, but that was really the best part because I was like, that's it. That's what it feels like. Trying to figure out what else to do here, and that was. I think that it really does capture what I've experienced too as a writer. That scene really
but
felt
that's
fun.
why you're a wonderful director, because you tortured me in that very specific way. But no, that you kept it rolling. That you got us all to that place, as excruciating as it was. Yeah.
Suffering for your art, as we all should. How are your furry co-stars? How are our dog actors?
Lemon. Oh God.
Should have been
Steve
higher
is
up on the
actually
call
Lemon.
sheet.
The most professional actor I've. Sorry, guys.
Lemon's stand-in was Lime, and Lime was just a little like a stuffed animal. But Lemon was. I worked with bulldogs before. I'll never work with bulldog again, but I would work with Lemon any day of the week.
That was the cutest.
And were those shepherds?
Not so much.
Less professional.
Spoke French.
He only spoke French.
That's why that you hear they're going arrête, arrête.
Oh, I thought that was just for fun.
Not scripted.
Not scripted. Oh, that's fun. See, this is what you get when you come out.
They're
to-
French shepherds.
They also smoked a lot of cigarettes and rolled their eyes at us a lot. Parce que.
We're introduced to, exes and then current partners in the pilot. Claire and Natalie, you want to talk a little bit about your character dynamics as we start and kind of go down the path with the two of you?
It was just so pathetic. It's so beautifully written, that scene between them at the cemetery, but it's really painful because Addie is just desperately in love and trying to just hang on, and she is does not find what she's looking for, but I don't know. How about you?
How was that scene for you? Yeah.
It was
can you imagine showing up on your first day and having that scene where your son's dead and your ex-wife is screaming and yeah, it was a difficult scene to do. Also, like, I don't like being in a cemetery. Do you?
Yeah.
It was a real cemetery. It was dark, which is new for me. I'm not a dark person. But the relationship with Claire's character, with Aggie, was really interesting to do. And we had rehearsals and we talked about it a fair bit and like where exactly they were and like how long did it stretch out, and romantic relationships with women tend to become sort of codependent and have a hard time to let go, and there's part of that, and also they suffered this insane trauma together, and how much of that is keeping them together and how much is it something else, and how much did they try afterwards, and what was it that split them up? Was it that? So there was all this before stuff that we worked out, and it was really, really helpful to rehearse with Gabe and Daniel and Antonio and Claire and like really talk about all that stuff, especially for me because they had this in their head for 5 years, but I didn't. And I was like, oh, okay. So okay, it was catching up the whole time, and it was really, really helpful and had so much richness to play for that. So yeah.
But none of the dialogue was explicit, but it was very clear what was happening, right? Love to see your work sometime. You know, like, oh, okay.
And then she says, "You need help."
Yeah, and even the text, like when they show the text and you've written to me and I haven't written back to you, and it's just kind of shows exactly where they are in a way. It's sad.
It was really fun to play the scene where I'm leaving the message on the phone. So, yeah, I don't know if you're like really busy or, you know, I've definitely left that message before.
We had to do a lot of research for that. Never experienced it.
Very real.
Had to ask some people.
Our other couple seemingly pretty happy now in this pilot. Matthew and Brittany, can you talk a little bit about you two in this show and like, you know, what they're about, what their relationship is like?
Tell them how happy you are.
Yeah.
Tell them.
You can go first,
Tell them.
I think when we first started talking about it, I did say that I really liked the fact that it seemed a little performative between them. I feel like you guys were saying a couple days ago, there's a lot of loneliness in this show, and that comes in many different forms, and I do feel like Nina has her own sense of loneliness in a way, in terms of being in a marriage where she is doing everything correctly, but it does feel just as lonely, and what primally that can drive someone to feel. And I feel like she's trying so hard and you know, you don't see this in the pilot but as it goes, you know, people find solace with that in all sorts of ways, and I do feel like that has been gnawing at her for a little bit, is that he underestimates her.
How dare you?
I know, I'm sorry, honey.
Also the intrigue for the two. The setup was so beautiful that you kind of go, hang on, what's going on there? So that made me lean in enormously, and I think it's applicable to a number, you know, any number of the cast or the characters. Is that the whose beast is within whom throughout the piece. So I was just very intrigued as to the whys and the wherefores of the two of them, and the real motivations, and how happy you were.
So happy, you can clearly see it.
Something that I
Try
thought
that
was
again.
really cool about their relationship and just watching it, and it's like how you guys wrote it and directed it, is that the first time you see them together, they don't talk to each other. He talks to Aggie, and they have nothing. She's like, I was just on my way out. They have nothing between them. Is really interesting, I thought. Yeah, as a viewer.
It's job well done. You all are wondering, right? We're wondering what happens next, which I think is, you know, a sign of a good story. We got to tune in for more. Howard, you directed the finale, yeah? Wrote the finale. We're coming sort of. We got 5 minutes to tease this. Can you talk about what you love about how the show is kind of plotted, and like things are not revealed too soon, or how you avoid revealing too soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's someone asked the other day, like, are there, for lack of a better word, formulas, or and all I can say is it's just, it really is instinct, and I use the metaphor but I'll use it again because I think it works. Like the senator who talked about pornography, I'll know it when I see it. And it's one of those things where I don't know how else to say it except that you know, as the guy who's kind of meant to be the conductor or whatever, the one who sort of has to synthesize all the voices, all the input, and really be responsible for telling the story and deciding what happens. If you think about it, it's kind of like a cell. You take in the good stuff and protect yourself from the toxins.
Yeah.
And then you just, I call it channeling, for lack of a better word. And it has to do with rhythm, tempo, narrative, when you turn up a card that makes sense. So I don't know, it's a process, and I think you have to stay open and also keep your eye on what about it makes you excited.
Yeah. Well, you've had many successes along the way so far. Can you sense it from day one?
No. I mean, in this case, it was interesting because, again, because I came into the process at a certain point in it, it was not clear, and I can't would I bet the house on it working? No. But was I scared? Yes. And did that feel good? Because I'm a masochist? Yes. So I don't know what else to say. It was a challenge. I knew Claire, I knew Daniel, I kind of knew Gabe, and met Antonio, and it was just it was really a great challenge.
Yeah. I wouldn't say masochist. Your shows are just very tense. I have to
I'm very
roll my
tense.
shoulders.
So it's like, I got to put it somewhere.
I would love if everyone could sort of give a little season tease, in not getting into, obviously I know we can't go into spoilers, but who wants to kind of give us a little tease about what unfolds in the next 7 episodes? The actors could do it for their characters, maybe. How much more we get to learn of Aggie and Niall, and you're like, they don't want to because it's too dangerous to talk about anything. How about the creative team? Can you kind of tease how you...
What are you supposed to say? It's like there's no good answer to that one.
I mean, you get answers every episode.
I have more achievements as the show goes.
It gets even better.
Lemon the dog dies.
And then, that's over the top.
That doesn't happen. People won't watch it. So much
I will
worse
say
than
though, the one thing I will say about this show is having watched it, coming in and the way television is not all the scripts are written, and the brain trust kind of tends to keep stuff from everybody else until they sort of really figure it out. But I will say that that the show sticks the landing, and so I will say that it's a very tricky show. It's a show that what I loved about it was I've read a lot of pilots, and this stood out as something very unique. And how it was going to develop was a mystery, and I thought that was why it was so interesting, because I hadn't seen anything like it, and that's the biggest challenge. And these guys stick the landing. So I will say, watch till the end.
That's a pretty good tease, right? What have you enjoyed? People are starting to see it now. What are you enjoying about people's reactions so far?
Well, we got to sit in on the screening in New York with the day before yesterday. It was the first time I watched it with an audience, maybe the last time. But people laughed. Also, and I thought, oh right, it's funny too. But no, it was just really wonderful to feel their engagement. And a lot of it's very quiet, and a lot of the action is really just these two people batting words around, back and forth, and that was enough. It turns out it was enough.
For some of I think, especially all 4 actors, you guys all have big emotional beats and action sequences. Is it like doing a workout on a day when you have a scene like the first one you're in, or there's some more action sequences down the way. How is it like to come up and down as an actor? Are you able to just kind of leave? Or is there a process you have to go through to kind of come down from the emotional highs and lows that you're performing?
These guys are the funniest people that I work with. I mean, truly, this guy especially, if you can't tell, he goes from being the most gregarious person in the world to being the most menacing psychopath within 1 second. It's very troubling. Claire too, actually. She'd be talking about something completely different. It would be action and she'd be crying. So it was really a lot of fun on set, and but taxing. But I really like that all of our characters, it's very morally ambiguous, and no one is really good or bad. There was levels. Antonio really played a lot of our scenes together where we were doing different types of things and trying different things, and so you really get a lot of gray with everyone, except for Lemon. Lemon was always good and having fun, and she is the only character that means well. Steve, sorry.
Yes. These are all really good teases. Anyone else want to chime in before my timer's running out, unfortunately. So that's the only minute.
8, 7, 6.
I would say, you mentioned Claire crying. Iconic crier, Claire Danes. I am always so impressed. I can't do that. I mean, yeah, I'm always very impressed because it's beautiful, even though it's anguish. So
We call it emotional access.
Ah,
I mean, come on.
yeah. Again,
That's a,
it's a beautiful
one way to say it.
Yes. Anyone else? Any final words, Daniel, Gabe, about
November 13th?
November 13th? All episodes will be available. So you can binge it. Thank you all so much for coming over on Friday night. Thank you all.